Good morning! Welcome to a massive weekend of college football. This is College Football 134 live on the Covers YouTube channel and Twitter account this Saturday morning. That is Andrew Caley. I am Douglas Farmer, and we simply do not have enough time to banter today, Andrew. There are too many good games, 43 total games to start worrying about.
Yeah, but real quick, we got to pour one out.
Come on, we started in a good mood. I come in here, you know me. I'm not known as a loud and rambunctious individual.
I know.
I'm coming on here yelling, good morning. I don't need your bad energy.
It's not bad, but it has to be mentioned. Pour one out for our Utah. This is a Utah pod. Did not look good. Another Cam Rising injury, it looked like. Couldn't do anything. Red zone issues. Tough look for my Utah futures ticket. Can still win the Big 12, so let's take that energy positive. Big 12 ain't great. They can still get there. They can still win it, get that playoff spot. Who knows? But yeah, not looking great. But yeah, lots of great games. I can't believe I was up all night, not because of my baby, but just because of college football. And I'm so excited to be here with you.
You know, I want to stand up for you real quick. It's not just your Utah, it's our Utah. And if we have producer Jameson hopping in the chat throwing shade at us. Look, producer Jameson, right now, I'll let you know. I'll go get the Florida graphic. I'll do it. You behave. I'll go get it. All right, we should dive in. The live chat is already active. Folks talking about Northwestern shellacking of Maryland last night. That, and I had 4 bets public this week. I'm 3-1. That was the one. I never saw that coming. We encourage you to keep the comments coming as they're comments and questions. We'll get to those, especially once we're done ripping through the biggest games of the week. And Andrew, while I'm taking care of the business dealings, the customer service, everybody like the video, subscribe to the Covers YouTube channel.
Verbs. Please. We appreciate all of your support at this point of the season. It's been so much fun, and you guys have been awesome. Keep those questions and comments coming. We're going to answer them all. Yeah, you are the reason that we're doing this, and yeah, let's keep those numbers coming.
Go find College Football 134 on all your podcast platforms and subscribe there as well. That is our Tuesday avenue, and you'll hear me say it later on today. Tuesday is where we are at our best. But without further ado, there are so many good games today that Penn State USC is an afterthought. I don't think I'm being disrespectful when I say that. It's just factual, right?
I think it's just because of USC coming back down to earth a little bit. They had that big win against LSU to start the season. We're like, hey, is this USC team different? Like, do they have a defense now? Not sure if that's really the case anymore after that loss to Minnesota. And I don't know, they've looked sloppy in a bunch of games. They were losing to Wisconsin at half. Like, it's taken some things to get where they are at this season. So yeah, that's why I would say we're in that spot.
I want to kind of touch on that real quick. Penn State's a 3.5-point favorite heading to USC, 3:30 Eastern time on CBS. And like you said, USC is coming off that loss. I went and looked, and let's see here. In his 5 seasons at Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley lost exactly 2 games every season. With this loss, he will have suffered at least 3 in each of his 3 seasons in Los Angeles. But hold on now. This gets weird. More precisely, at this point last year, USC was undefeated. The 3rd loss came in November. 2 years ago at this point, USC was undefeated. The 3rd loss came in January. Lincoln Riley loses today. It will not only be his 3rd loss. He's never lost a 2nd game this early in the season, let alone a 3rd. This time out in Los Angeles is not going as Lincoln Riley ever expected. We can look back at that LSU, and LSU made Miller Moss look pretty good, but Michigan and Minnesota have shown that he might not be a Lincoln Riley quarterback, and that you have to wonder about that going into this game.
Yeah, and then we like to talk about this. If they lose this game, then I think this is a team we target on that old Quidometer in the same essence as, say, a Florida team, producer Jameson. I could see it happening in this game too. Like, I see this line at 3.5, and the only edge I'm really giving USC in this one is they're playing at home. Like, that's like Penn State has to travel. That's the big edge here. To me, the Nittany Lions just look like a really, really complete football team. Like, they're not. I think their biggest knock right now is they're not covering spreads. Like, they're not covering these big spreads like the odds makers are expecting them to. But they're really never in danger of losing games either. Like, they're not covering, but yeah, it's things haven't been tough for them at the same time. Love the balance on offense. Love those two running backs in Singleton and Allen. And Drew Aller. He's developing.
Whoa.
Okay.
You are the resident Drew Aller critic. In my notes here, I have a line. After all these weeks, I intend to say that I'm out on USC's defense. And much to Drew Aller's critics' chagrin, Penn State has a great offense. You're going to come around now?
So before you just shit on me for this take, I really, really liked Drew Aller as a freshman. And I remember watching that game against Ohio State 2 years ago, and it was like, oh, he looks like a freshman. And then last year was the year where it kind of was like, oh, is it ever going to happen? But he's kind of taken that step in his development this year. He's completing over 70% of his passes. And what are those issues? Those issues with USC. One, I think it's been tackling. Like the tackling has not been great for USC. 2 explosive plays, right? As a result, they rank 99th in defensive success rate on dropbacks. So this has me look like I was just looking at this. I'm taking Drew Aller over his passing yards in this one of 206.5. I think this number is too low. He's gone over this number in 3 of his 5 games. He went over it in the one against West Virginia in like the first half. And I think we could see something similar here. I know USC has been attacked with running backs recently, but like you said, Newsmeyer looked really good against them. I know LSU can't really run the ball, but we've seen bad QBs come close to this number as well. And I think I can see them hitting a couple explosives in this one and I have them in like the 220 range for passing yards in this one. So 206.5 is an easy over bet for me.
Now, let's confirm. That is a best bet out of you. I was a little
best
slow
bet.
on the draw with the banner. That is an official play from you right away this morning.
Minus 115 at Bet365. I think it's available at a few other places too. I think Caesars as well.
Frankly, folks, if you aren't up right away at 9 a.m. Eastern, this is why you want to log in right away, because here we've got Andrew coming in with the show, the game that I deemed kind of overlooked, not trying to be disrespectful. And Alex Simon points out it can be both factual and disrespectful. We're coming in hot like that right away. And Andrew's even got a best bet. You know what? I want to join you on the best bet bandwagon.
Yes.
I'm not the player prop guy that you are, but I do feel this line has fallen too far. It opened at Circus Sports on Sunday at neg 4, peaked at neg 5.5 later Sunday night, and it held there until Thursday morning. It should not have fallen to neg 4, even neg 3.5. USC is vulnerable against the rush. We saw that to my cost against Michigan. We saw that to my cost against Wisconsin. We saw that to my cost against Minnesota. At some point here, I have to learn my lesson, right? The bad news gets worse for the Trojans. Nicholas Singleton looks poised to rejoin Katron Allen in the Nittany Lions backfield, further developing that rush game with Drew Aller's efficiency through the air. USC is about to suffer that third loss that Lincoln Riley is so unfamiliar with this early in the season. I'm going to go ahead and take Penn State by 3.5. That's available at neg 110 at Caesars. I think a few other books as well. Looks like we're both backing Penn State in different ways, which, given our track record, is a little concerning. Usually, we succeed when we disagree. We struggle when we get along. So I'll find some anger later on in the show.
Yeah, you try to do that.
Oh, I've always been able to.
It's not hard for you.
You know what? You know who will get angry at? Mr. Gerg, we're not here for Penn State to let us down. We are here to win some money. Come on, get with the program.
They do have a habit of that. It feels like it's been a decade of Penn State being in these games and letting people down, specifically their fans. But
we don't need this energy. Here I am looking around my computer.
Positive energy, right?
Let's move on to what some feel is the biggest game of the day, just because it's the one that's most likely to go sideways. It always has. The Red River rivalry. Texas is a 15-point favorite against Oklahoma. I want to give these two love and credit for still playing this in the Cotton Bowl proper, not moving to Jerry World as everything down in Texas seems to do. I appreciate that. It makes it a much more fun game. You know, I kept looking at this, and my two primary college football futures are Ohio State and Texas. And I was trying to check myself. Like, I'm sure Texas is going to run over Oklahoma. Texas is going to run over Oklahoma. We have Parker come on Tuesday and point out that, you know, comedy drives more college football results than anything else. Back Oklahoma. But aside from that, I couldn't find a reason. Texas's defense is too good. That's the piece that instills my confidence for me. Oklahoma, Can you run a 6-second 40 and catch pass? Because they might line you up at receiver at this point. I
Yeah, that
strongly
depth chart is really
considered.
hurting.
Say that again.
Sorry, that depth chart is really hurting.
It's devastated. It's absolutely devastated. And I strongly considered taking the Oklahoma team total under as an official bet, 16.5. And that could be true while still Oklahoma covering. That's why I looked at that. Alex Simon pointing out that Oklahoma might be an auto bet because of the rivalry, but I couldn't get there. Can you get anywhere with this game aside from just believing in Texas?
I have a bet here. I do another best bet. We're gonna go 2 for 2 on our games. I wrote the preview for this on, I think it was Wednesday. Total was 50.5 then. Now it's 48.5. The first half total was 26.5, and I bet under 26.5 in the first half. Today, that's only gone down a point as opposed to the full game going down 2 points, and now it's at 25.5. So I'm on the under first half total of 25.5 here. A couple of things are influencing my pick. One, it's Quinn Ewers' first game back in over a month, right? This is first game action in over a month. He gets to play behind arguably the best offensive line in the country. So why not lean on that a bit and use the run game? 2, Brent Venables finally looks like he has a Brent Venables defense at Oklahoma, 34th in defensive success rate. There's some holes there still, but obviously he's building towards like those teams he had in Clemson all those years, and this is a big jump from where Oklahoma's been on defense in the past. Then, of course, this is, I think, what's going to influence a lot of people's handicaps here is Oklahoma's offense. I'm not really a believer in Michael Hawkins Jr. It makes the Sooners offense really one-dimensional. They enter this game 127th in offensive success rate. Like that, they bad. Like that's that they bad. They're this week's version of they bad on offense. And they're going up what I think is a really, really underrated Texas defense. We've talked about this a few times, but this is a group that I thought was going to struggle losing Trevondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, but they've exceeded all of my expectations, and they seem stronger at almost every other position. Like they're still strong on the interior defensive line, not as strong with those guys, but overall, the product of that Texas defense is better than it was last season. And I have real issues. For things to get crazy, Oklahoma has to have showed me some ability to score. That's been the thing. Like both teams have had offenses in years past, and like Oklahoma's just proven nothing at this point. So for those reasons, I'm going under 25.5 in the first half. Part of the reason for the first half too is let's eliminate the chaos a little bit. Things can get a little wonky and sideways in the second half. Things are more scripted in the first half. So yeah, under 25.5 in the first half. Like I said, I don't see much of a difference between 26.5 and 25.5 in terms of numbers. So that's why that makes the best bet for me here still on Saturday morning.
25.5, 26. I can try to sit here and come up with permutations of 7 and 3, and I'm sure I'd eventually find a reason to care, but I'm not that good at math, especially this early in the morning. I have a hunch you have some other thought on that game. Call it a hunch that you're looking at Red River and thinking there's too much value to have only one play.
Of course. So I'm just enjoying life today, Douglas. So I've got another player prop here today. It's another player who's happy to have Quinn Ewers back, and that's running back Jaden Blue. So another way to mitigate pressure is, of course, to, like I said, running the football. But another one could be by dumping the ball off to your running backs. And Blue was targeted 12 times when Quinn Ewers was quarterback, catching 9 of those for 74 yards in the Longhorns' first 2 games. That includes going 6 for 37 against an elite Michigan defense. And I can see a very similar situation in this Oklahoma game. And 20.5 looks like a really good number to me. Like I said, lots of targets. I really, really like this play. Jaden Blue over 20.5 receiving yards in this spot.
You're making quick work of the board this morning, which I'm always appreciative of. That's very considerate of you, something that I always admire in our every inner. I'm completely being facetious, as you know well. Let's keep moving because there is a game that I think is the biggest game of the day. And it's not the game that, at our request, producer Jameson put in the graphic. And it is not Eastern Michigan, though. If you're going to bring up my Tuesday bet, I will go start pumping. Bobby Newport coming in with the emu. We've got Mr. Gerg pointing out Don't bury the lead. Emu going for 6-0 against the spread. Not just 6-0 against the spread, 5-1 outright. Let's go and get that money line upset of Miami of Ohio that we bet on Tuesday. No, Andrew, I think the biggest game of the day, it just means more. In the SEC, Mississippi at LSU. Mississippi, a 3.5-point favorite, total of 62.5. That's the primetime game on ABC, and I think that's a playoff eliminator. I think it should get more hype than Ohio State, Oregon.
It's the Magnolia Bowl, right? We've got to talk about it. Nobody knows that it's called the Magnolia Bowl, which is funny.
I didn't know it was called the Magnolia Bowl. I think this game is the most drama we're going to have. This is why you're guaranteed $90 million. This is why you turn your life upside down. To remain in the playoff conversation on an annual basis well into November, right? And yet, LSU and Brian Kelly are a home underdog to Lane Kiffin. That has got to be aggravating for Brian Kelly. But the same could all be said for Lane Kiffin. This is why Mississippi backed up the Brinks truck in the offseason. This is why he blustered enough about the Alabama job opening to garner some more NIL support, to be in the thick of the playoff conversation into November, right? And yet, because of that loss to Kentucky, Mississippi could lose tonight and be out of the playoff conversation entirely. I'm not going to be able to turn away from this drama. Somebody, Lane Kiffin or Brian Kelly, is going to be visibly angsty in the fourth quarter, and I am looking forward to it.
So I can't go 3 for 3 here. I don't have a best bet in this one, but I wrote the preview for this one as well, and I am definitely leaning towards Mississippi laying the 3.5 points there. I like the way the Rebels bounced back from that loss. They took care of business against South Carolina. Yes, LSU has won 4 games in a row, but that best win came against that same South Carolina team where they won by just 3 points and easily could have lost that game. Like, that was such a sloppy finish. If you remember watching the end of that LSU South Carolina game, they're just 1-4 ATS on the season. The big thing is, like, I just don't think we've learned anything new from LSU since that loss. Yeah, Nussmeier has been solid. The offensive line, like I mentioned before, can't run block, so that you're not running the ball consistently, making that offense one-dimensional. And the defense is getting chewed up by opposing quarterbacks. And I don't know if you've heard, but Mississippi has this guy named Jackson Dart who's already thrown for 2,100 yards this season and has a 13-2 touchdown interception ratio. Yeah, so LSU's pass defense on dropbacks, 118th in success rate. They bad. I think I would have made this an official bet. Like, I think I would have bet Mississippi minus 3.5, if not for just, I think it was last night. I just heard that Trey Harris is still questionable to play in this game. Harris has obviously been a monster this year. He leads the nation in receiving yards, I believe. And I think he's dealing, they didn't say what they said, lower body. So this is one where if you tune into warmups tonight and he's on the field and he's good to go, then I'm probably going to go jump on Mississippi, because I don't think, yes, this is another spot, LSU, Death Valley at night. It's just a different animal, and I'll get anybody who makes that case. But this Mississippi team, as you mentioned, they backed up that Brinks truck, and I'm really impressed with this defense this year too. That's the big difference for me between this Mississippi team and Mississippi teams of the past, is this paid-for defense has actually been a good paid-for defense at this point.
They better deliver, because Lane Kiffin's going to lose a lot of credibility down there in Oxford if this team is not in the playoff conversation into November. Like I said, this is the classier version, the blue blood version of my Miami, Florida take in week 1 of somebody's going to walk away from a car crash here with a totaled wreck. And in this case, it's not going to be a totaled wreck. Lane Kiffin and Brian Kelly's jobs are just fine. But one of them is going to be going home with a fender bender and a broken windshield and have to explain to the missus that, that was entirely my fault. And I'm looking forward to seeing which one of them squirms late into the night. I do want to point out, Bobby Newport hops into the comments here and asks, LSU off a bye have much impact here? Bobby, idle weeks don't matter in college football. Yeah, they help you get healthy. This year, going into this week, teams coming off byes are 33, 35, and 1 against the spread. They're 31 and 38 outright. This is not just a 2024 item. I have data going back years that you are not measurably improved coming off an idle week. It is a easy thing to claim. Plenty of people use it to base handicaps. If it gets, I don't know, like a Cam Rising healthy, then it has an effect. But otherwise, idle weeks are an overrated phenomenon in college football.
Is that just because kids aren't using that extra time to prepare, or they recover faster, like, so they don't need as much injury time? Like, what would you say that is?
I think you're putting a lot of faith in 18 to 23-year-olds. I also
Yeah.
think we've probably figured out the number, but the fact that they're 31 and 38 straight up, and that's the math that I've really run for years, that they're no better than 500 coming off idle weeks. It's simply a fact that it's a football game on a Saturday. It's not, the rest doesn't do anything to drastically improve you on a football game on Saturday. You can last longer into the season, but it's not going to be doing a whole lot more. Bobby Newport is also going to enjoy laughing at Brian Caley, which I
Also,
appreciate.
shout out to John Metler. Just for an example, he wants to know how much a good quarterback was cost for NIL and the NCAA. Or
We can come
football.
back to John's existential questions if John wants to stick around for a change. John, I challenge you to still
There,
be
I'll
here at
tease you. I have an
9:45.
answer for you, John.
I challenge you to last long enough into the show. We are well aware of John and his support, and if we answer that question later on, he might not even hear it. Look at me just throwing out the love this early, this quickly.
It's almost too much positivity from you, Doug. Like, I don't know if we can keep going like this.
Well, the bad news is we're going to get to a game that I made a best bet on Tuesday. I got Ohio State at that even field goal on Tuesday. Ohio State still favored by an even field goal at Oregon. That's the primetime game on NBC. This is why NBC paid the Big Ten. This is why the Big Ten rated the top quarter of the Big 12. This game should be fun, man. I stand by my best bet on Tuesday. Late in the week, I wanted to come up with a forward-thinking angle. What can I learn about the Buckeyes this weekend? That's my national title pick. Has been all along. I should keep an eye there to see if I need to adjust course. It took me a while, but I did figure out what I'm curious about in this game. And it might sound like a cliche or rote headline. I want to see Ryan Day in Autzen Stadium. That is more my curiosity than anything else. Look, Will Howard has played well on the road at Texas. He threw 4 touchdowns last season. He's played well at Missouri. He threw 3 touchdowns. Kansas State lost those games because of Kansas State's defense, not Will Howard. And Ohio State has a defense that is as veteran as it gets. But if I get to watch Ryan Day versus Dan Never Punt Lanning, that's either going to erase doubt in Ryan Day or embolden doubt in Ryan Day. And I am curious to see what he puts forward tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. You're talking about Ryan Day. I can't wait to see Chip Kelly. This is the Chip Kelly revenge game. Not really, but like Chip Kelly back in Eugene. Like, this is an angle not a lot of people are talking about. I'm kind of, once again, I don't know if this bodes well for us, but I'm leaning towards Ohio State at this lineup as well. I think we're down to 3 now, right? I'm looking at the board, and like at 3.5, I get the argument for Oregon. They're at home. Gabriel, despite he's made some weird decisions in key moments this year, which has been not costly because they haven't lost, but like gives you concern for a matchup against a team like Ohio State. At 3, I wouldn't take Oregon at anything less than 3.5. So at this point, I would probably jump ship, and I'm leaning towards Ohio State here because I think they're just, like you said, they're one of the more complete teams in the country. They don't have a lot of holes right now. That Oregon offensive line hasn't been great going up against that Ohio State defensive line. And then there's this Oregon rushing defense, which has some inflated numbers right now because they've played a bunch of bums recently who can't run the football. Like let's go back to when they played Boise State and Ashton Jeanty rushed for 198 yards and 3 scores against them. Jeanty might be the solo best back in the country right now, but nobody was saying that before the season. Like, sure, he'd be in a conversation for best back, but nobody was saying that before the season. Everyone was saying Ohio State has maybe the best 2 running backs in the country in Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. So more best bets for you in another big game. I'm doubling up here too. I'm going Quinshon Judkins over 64.5 rushing yards, which you can get at -115 at Caesars, and Travion Henderson over 58.5 rushing yards, which you can get at BetMGM. both of these guys are averaging about 8 yards per carry this season. So I talked about Chip Kelly before. You think like, why did Quinshon Judkins go to Ohio State when TreVeyon Henderson was already there? Well, because Chip Kelly is there now, and he's going to get his best players the football. He doesn't care what position they are, and you know he's gonna get both of those running backs the ball, and he's done just that. They both topped 70 yards in their latest game against Iowa, which has a good run defense as well. So there's a precedent there that they've done this. They can do it again. These are low numbers for these guys. Judkins has gone over his number in 3 of 5. Henderson has gone over this number in all 5 of his games this year. Like, I was trying to split hairs because I knew I wanted to bet one of them, and I just couldn't figure out which one it was. Judkins gets a few more carries, but he has the higher number, obviously. So I went with both. I went with both. They could both go over this number and still not have as many yards as Ashton Jeanty did in that matchup. I think they're the difference in this game. I think those running backs are the difference.
This is a curious approach, and now we've gotten through our games of the week. So I wanna pull up here and ask you a little bit about process. And
Yep.
you did. I appreciate you going in that you tried to decide which one. Is part of you thinking, hey, worst case scenario, I should go 1-1, but I've got a better chance of 2-0 than 0-2?
No, I'm not trying to make losing bets here. Like I think I see value in both numbers. Like these numbers are too low for both guys. Like this is why I made the decision. It was this one is too low, this one is too low. Like if they were both like 5 yards higher, like if Judkins was in like the 71, 73 range, maybe I stay away. If Henderson's is like 65, maybe I stay away. But these numbers are low enough for each guy that they can both go over. It fits the game plan. It fits what they've been trying to do. They're both going to get a good amount of carries in this game. And Oregon's run defense is not rated properly. It's not. It's like they got crushed by Ginty, and they've padded some numbers against some bad run teams. So I like them both.
And I do like you bringing up the Chip Kelly revenge factor. In my notes, I want to point out that while I'm curious about Ryan Day, there is coaching acumen to be credited when you hire good coordinators. And he has done that in Jim Knowles as his defensive coordinator and Chip Kelly as his offensive coordinator. The buck still stops with Day, pun intended. And you mentioned Oregon's rush defense. It's fine. Like you said, it isn't great. The issue that I counter, and I'm not doubting you, I like these plays. Ohio State has not leaned on the run yet this season. It throws the ball 5.6% more often than the average team would. This might be Chip Kelly suckering Oregon in, quite frankly. He hasn't needed to run the ball just yet.
And the other point of that is, like you talked about Will Howard. Will Howard is like, he might be a lateral move from Kyle McCord. Like you, come on, you fight me on it then, Douglas. Fight me on it. Like I don't see, he's never been an elite college football passer. He's mobile. They don't want him to turn over the ball. That's his role for this Ohio State team. Get Jeremiah Smith the ball in a couple of explosive plays and don't turn it over. That's his role.
I think you just said the reason he's more than a lateral move. Last season, Kyle McCord had 6 interceptions on 348 pass attempts. So that's one every high 50s, less than 60. Will Howard in his career has looking okay, a lot more interceptions.
He has 4 this season already, doesn't he?
3. Per collegefootballreference.com. He has 28 on his career on 909 attempts. That's going to be less than 40. Okay. Maybe my immediate counter argument has been debunked upon entry. I will come back at you at some point. You know me too well. Tyler raises an excellent question. Why won't sportsbooks just offer cumulative team rushing or passing yards? It'd be.
I actually like that for college football.
We'd love them to, but you and I both know why they don't. It's too much. They already struggle to cover this whole market. There are 43 games today, 52 total this week. They already struggle. This is not the NFL where there are only 14 to 16 games among 32 teams that are all the same. So there would be too many spots where we would find added value, and that sportsbooks are just protecting their rear ends. That's why that bet does not exist, Tyler. I like the thought. We'd love it. I would love it.
I would very much love that bet.
And I want to appreciate Bobby Newport showing us both some support, coming in and saying Ohio State can win this by double digits. Frankly, this is something you heard me say last night. I think Ohio State, while considered by everybody a top 2 team in the country, I think it's underrated. I think Ohio State might be far and away better than everybody else, with Texas the only team within range. That is my hot take. I don't know if that's even a hot take. I think Ohio State is that good that a 3-point line today. This is why I made it a Tuesday best bet. This is why I was not surprised when it spent much of the week at 3.5, because I think Ohio State is far and away that much better than everybody else.
I would have lined it around 5.5, 6. Like, that's just, I think we're, maybe we'll be wrong and I'll look like an idiot, which you love when it happens, and it happens more than it shouldn't. But I don't see that line.
Exhibit A of you looking like an idiot. It happens more often than it shouldn't, which means it does not happen as often as it should. I do feel it doesn't happen as often as it should. Let's give you some more chances to look like an idiot. Let's rip through some rapid fire work here so we can sincerely tell people we discussed more than 4 games before getting to our best bets. You ready?
Sure. Let's do it.
Agree or disagree, we as a college football society have not laughed enough at Missouri playing at UMass.
Agree. I would, it's not a bet, but I would lean Missouri here. They have to right the ship.
Favored by 27, and if anybody is wondering, this is literally just a pure home and home scheduling decision made because a former UMass administrator was in charge of Missouri scheduling for a few years. Not there anymore. Next up, Notre Dame, favored by 22.5. Might not score 23 points against Stanford. I'm just saying might. Do you agree that's more of a possibility than it should be?
Agree.
My logic there is that Stanford's rush defense is decent, number 67 in rushing success rate against. The best way to attack the Cardinal is through the air. And, shoot. Notre Dame and Riley Leonard. We might come back to that topic looking at our comments. Let's beat Mr. Gerg to a comment we will inevitably get from him at some point today. Kansas State is favored by 3.5. It's number 33 in the country at 2.4 sacks per game. Colorado is number 129. A reminder, folks, we are college football 134 because there are 134 teams. So being ranked at number 129 is generally considered bad. I think your phrase would be they bad. Colorado is ranked number 129 in the country at 3.6 sacks allowed per game. I'm putting the over-under at 4.5 Wildcat sacks tonight.
Over. I still don't believe. I'm sorry. I still don't believe in Colorado. I just don't.
I'm expecting our social department to put out a video of me saying I still don't believe in Colorado. There are some things. What is the no, Dion? I do not believe. Let's agree or disagree. Vanderbilt 12.5-point underdog today at Kentucky is a clear letdown play, even if Commodores quarterback Diego Pavia was saying in last week's post game that a loss to Kentucky renders that win against Alabama rather meaningless. Clear letdown play. Agree or disagree?
Disagree, just because of Diego Pavia. Like, the guy is such a dog. Like, the guy, he's a baller. Like you said it after the game. He was like, "We have to beat Kentucky. We have to beat Kentucky." This is a team that is trying to get to bowl eligibility. And this is a spot for them to steal a win. Like, I know. Anyways, I can talk more about this in a bit. I've got to play on this game later, so all intents and purposes, yes, this is your most typical letdown spot in terms of college football letdown spots. I mean, the goalposts are still in the river by the.
No, they're not. Vanderbilt got them out of the river. Vanderbilt got them out of the river within minutes because Vanderbilt understood, hey, look, money. Hey, look, we can sell those. We have $100,000 fine to pay to the SEC. Let's make $500,000 on goalposts, which is just capitalism at its finest. Let's go to the last game of the night. Boise State, 3-touchdown favorite. First half line is 10.5 to 12.5, depending on your sports book. Bet365, I did not check this updated number this morning. It's the one number I forgot to check. As of last night, set Ashton Jeanty's rushing yards prop at 184.5. He should have to play enough tonight to actually clear that number, right?
No. No, he should not. Hawaii is not a great defensive team. Your concern is Jeanty coming out in the first half and not playing much here. Like, he could rush for, I think, what was it last week? It was really funny. I think we were talking about this last week. His rushing total was like 190 6 or something like that, and he finished with, what was it, 194 and didn't play another down. Like
I
that
believe you're off by about 3 yards there, but the premise is exactly
is
that. He fell 3 or 4 yards short in the first half of his full
in the
game
first.
total, and Utah State is bad enough that Boise State said, "Hey, Heisman front runner, go take a nap, get ready to go out after the game. You're good."
Quick lean here. I actually don't hate the over in this game because I think that Boise State's secondary is a little shaky at times, and this is a Hawaii offense that's been getting better at moving the ball through the air, and I think they should be able to do a little bit against Boise State here.
Bobby Newport has agreed with that.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby.
Producer Jameson went and did his job. The current number on this is 184.5, so it has maintained overnight. Appreciate that, Producer Jameson. I do want to point out Hawaii, let's see here, number 19 in rushing success rate against, 34.9%. But number 82 in EPA per rush against. Now, you think about that. So they stop people.
What's that mean?
They stop people 2/3 of the time, but they're still in the bottom half of the country in expected points added per. Oh, they give up explosive rushes. Oh, no. Oh, no. Ashton Jeanty, 3 80-yard touchdowns. Catch the over.
Producer Jameson, this is the longest rapid fire ever. What is there a market for longest rush? Do we know that?
We will let Producer Jameson go looking for that. We will hit a few comments here. We've already got so many on this Boise State Hawaii game. I appreciate that.
I love
Tyler
that.
Krennic, I don't want to indulge this, but it's good content. We did just mention Colorado. Travis Hunter, can he really win the Heisman? For sake of argument, assume the Buffs go 8-4. See, the problem we're going to have is both you and I hear Colorado going 8-4, and we doubt the premise.
I can't get there. I just can't. It is 8-4, and he'd have to.
I mean, 8-4 is getting him to New York, and 6-6 is getting him to New York.
You think 6-6 is getting him to New York?
Yeah, as long as he stays healthy. As long as he stays healthy, which I don't wish upon anybody, but when you're playing that many snaps, it's more likely you.
So, are we saying the final 3 at this point is almost locked in? Like, assuming I'm gonna Jalen Milroe. I think Alabama is going to bounce back, and he's going to keep doing what he's doing, and he is going to be the other guy in New York. Like, there's nothing about his number. If Alabama goes 8-4 and Jalen Milroe is having amazing numbers, why should that keep him out and put Travis Hunter in? Like, I don't understand that at all.
I'm not arguing that, but remember, it doesn't have to be 3. The Heisman has the ability to go 4 or 5, and I feel pretty strongly. I'm not checking the Heisman numbers at this moment on a Saturday morning, but this week I placed a 20-1 bet on Quinn Ewers. I think this field is open enough. I think the narrative backlash is going to come for Travis Hunter because he's going to get tired and Colorado is going to lose many games. I think the narrative backlash is going to come from Ashton Jeanty. At some point, he's going to have like 110 yards, and people are going to say, see, he's not that good. Quinn Ewers has 2 huge moments in the next 2 weeks to reinsert himself into the Heisman conversation. So I'm saying that it's not just final 3. I think there is still space for.
Yeah, maybe they make, because I guess that's not a set number.
Nope.
Has there been a situation where a guy's missed a month of the season and won the Heisman?
He missed 2 games against Louisiana Monroe and Mississippi.
I know, but like the Heisman is still a stats award, right? It still is, and he's missing those stat games. Like that's just. I agree with you in premise here because I think Quinn Ewers should also be at the end of the day going to New York for this. I think he's maybe the best quarterback in the country right now and is going to have some good numbers when all is said and done. And yeah, but there's just a stat hurdle that I think needs to be met for some of these voters.
It's a stat award in that it's a narrative award. And I think being the Texas quarterback, beating Oklahoma and possibly Georgia, if he beats Georgia, I think that outweighs any stat concerns. I think that is enough of a narrative propellant that puts him right back in the thick of the conversation, especially when you look at Ohio State. And I mean, was their best Heisman candidate Jeremiah Smith? I don't see the Heisman going to a freshman receiver as much as I would love it to. I don't see that happening.
But like also like it's tough, and it's tough when you also consider like, well, Alabama also has a freshman wide receiver that's kind of going off too. So like they're kind of splitting votes there.
We appreciate producer Jameson again doing his job. Man, man, it's good to have him around. There does not appear to be a longer rush
Producer
crowd
Mario
for
was the
SGPD
worst.
today.
Sorry, Producer Mario, but
I'm not
God,
sorry,
thank you,
Producer
Jameson.
Mario. And John, before we get out of these comments, we will agree with you. That is why I said 110 for Ashton James. You're trying to emphasize that that's how good he is, that that's an off game. But, you know, the folks have waited long enough, Andrew. We should do our job and get to some best bets.
You got it. Are we gonna? We're gonna make John wait even longer for our
Yeah.
NIL number. Okay.
We need what's more important, giving the people Saturday value or discussing summer questions, discussing things we can worry about in February. Let's go ahead and remember that our best value comes on Tuesdays. This Tuesday we had six bets. 3 of them found value, 2 of them went against us. Ohio State neg 3 did not move. So that's 3 for, 2 against. To me, that's value. I'm hearing value, and you carried that weight. I will give you that credit. Clemson first half 10.5. That's now 11.5. Iowa State 2.5. That's 3 or 3.5. Kudos to you. 2 out of your 3 Tuesday bets, bringing that value. You know, if everybody wants that value, it's real easy to get. You just go subscribe and listen to College Football 134 on all your podcast platforms.
Please do. And like, even the one that went against me is Georgia Tech at UNC. So I don't get it. I don't at all. So they're the biggest quit team on the board right now. Besides maybe even Florida. They might have a literal coach who has quit on the sideline already.
As our friend Parker Fleming likes to say, it can always get worse. And I think North Carolina is redefining the limits of how far it can go, that it can always get worse. But if you're the one who cooked for us on Tuesday, why don't you go ahead and lead us off today?
So I'm going to go back to one of those Tuesday plays, actually. And that was Clemson minus 10.5 in the first half. They've just really impressed me this season. And another guy who even more than Drew Aller has been like, hey, bud, like, I'm better than what you think. And that's Cade Klubnik. He's ever since that Georgia game, he's been pretty unreal. And it's been impressive to watch at this point. He's thrown for 1,077 yards with 14 touchdowns, just 1 pick. He's added another 185 yards and 4 scores on the ground over 4 straight wins for Clemson. And the most impressive part is that he's another guy who's doing most of his work in the first half of games. Like, he's getting up to these huge scores and then kind of not playing much of the second half. But so I'm going back to the well in this game. I'm going with a Cade Klubnik prop here. Let's go over 2.5 passing touchdowns, which you can get at nice. We got to find more college football props like this. I love getting plus money value on these props. So over 2.5 passing touchdowns at plus 110 over at Bet365. I see plus 106 at Caesars as well. So there is plus money at other places as well. Really like this play going up against a Wake Forest team that is also in a bit of a letdown spot after their win over NC State. I know NC State, they bad. They bad. But now they have to deal with a Clemson team that feels like it's on a bit of a revenge tour at this point. Klubnik has hit the over on this number in 3 of his last 4 games. The one he didn't was last week, where he had 2 touchdowns and no interceptions against Florida State. I've just been really impressed with them. The Deeks, they rank 133rd in defensive success rate. And here's our favorite number, 134 out of 134 in defensive success rate on dropbacks. So Cade Klubnik over 2.5 touchdown passes at plus 110 is my first best bet, even though I've given out like 4 or 5 already today.
Yeah, that's your 4th or 5th or 6th best bet of the day, which we appreciate. We appreciate it, and it guarantees it. Oh, it doesn't guarantee. Oh boy, that could get ugly. Oh, let's go elsewhere. You know what? I'm gonna give the people what they want. Bobby Newport hops in the chat and innocently asks, why is Syracuse only neg 3 at NC State? So I'm going to move our outline along and just jump right into that, because you mentioned NC State. You mentioned Wake Forest beating NC State last week. It was one of my last plays of the week, taking NC State there, and I was rather disappointed. But it really emphasizes that NC State, Dave Dorner's done a great job. He's built that program. They're consistent, and something we overlook is that it's a lot of these teams like an NC State tier in college football. It's cycles. You got to cycle your way up. You got to make the most of that moment. Sometimes the most of that moment is 9-3. Sometimes the most of that moment is a disappointing 8-4. You make the most of that moment, and then you're going to cycle down. And I think we're finding now that NC State is in that cycle down spot. So yes, one of my best bets today is Syracuse by 3. It's available at Neg 105 at Caesars. And what am I supposed to be unnerved that Syracuse is coming back from a nice win at UNLV 8 days ago? And I'm more than a decade older than these players. Even I recover from a couple of nights in Vegas in a week. Syracuse's only moment of disappointment this season has been against Stanford. But the Cardinal have an underrated and complicated offense. North Carolina State has nothing on offense. It ranks in the bottom 15 in the country in offensive EPA. I'm not going to overcomplicate this. The Orange just outscored UNLV. There's one thing you can count on right now. It's UNLV's offense. So to outscore that gets my attention. NC State has no offense to try to match this resurgent season from Kyle McCord. I don't love taking a piece of the ACC on the road as a field goal favorite. I'll acknowledge that. It's just asking for some coastal chaos. But I see no reason whatsoever to believe in NC State here.
Yeah, no, they bad.
Let's hope. Now you teased. Oh, Bobby Newport's telling me that's available at 2.5 at DraftKings right now. I'm guessing that is juiced because I did check these numbers right before we went live. But if that's neg 2.5, neg 110, more power to you. You are going back to a game you teased earlier as we went through rapid fire.
Yeah, it's Vanderbilt. Now, this line was 14 earlier in the week, and because of the potential letdown spot, I was a little wary, and I didn't jump on the number, and I was like, maybe the Sharps will agree with the line, and it'll go to 14.5, and I waited, and it's gone the other way, and we're at 12.5 now. I just think Vanderbilt is better, still better. You can make a case that they should have not lost a football game this year.
That Georgia State game especially. They take Missouri to overtime. Missouri missed so many field goals. I'm not willing to grant that one. But that Georgia State game, Vanderbilt,
it was still overtime, and the Georgia State game, they choked up at the end there. Like, they just had a chance to close out that final drive. Did not let Georgia State go down the field really far too quick and lost that game. But this Clark Lee squad, they play, man. They play, and like, he has coached them up so well. And so I really wanted something on this game, but I missed that best number. So what I instead found, I think this is a bad line. I see Vandy's team total at Bet365 at 14.5 minus 115 to the over. So I'm going over Vandy team total minus 14.5, or sorry, not minus. Vandy team total over 14.5 at minus 115. If they have any heart whatsoever, and I think they do, led by Diego Pavia, they're going over this number. Yes, Kentucky's defense has been solid, but I just see this number is just too low. I'm seeing up 16.5s out there too, so this number looks wrong. I like Vandy to get over this number, and it's a good substitution for missing them at plus 14.
I'm always a fan of using a team total to find further value. Those numbers can linger through the week. It always amazes me when we see a spread or a total move, but the team total does not move accordingly. It should. You can do the easy math of how team total should move with them, and they often don't. So I am all for adding that to the slate. And Andrew, I'm not an official play, because when I agree with you on the show, we're going to go 0-2. I suspect personally I'm going to tail you on that one.
Okay.
And we've got Bobby Newport saying he sees it. He got an alternate line of over 16.5, which, I mean, the difference between 16.5 and 14.5 is not a whole lot of conversation.
Yeah, I don't hate that play at all. It's just, and I understand, like, I would obviously prefer the 2 touchdown spread, because Kentucky's offense has not been good. Like, they can't move the ball at a very good rate at all this season. But I don't know, like, if Vandy has been effective on offense basically against everybody. They're not putting up 40 points a game, but what they do it well. And it's 14.5 points just seems too low to me.
All right, let me top off our best bets, and then we are going to go through every comment that has not been discussed thoroughly, including February conversations that should be had during the NBA All-Star break. I am going to go out to Laramie, and I am looking at Wyoming and San Diego State, and this is pretty simple to me. I've got a freshman quarterback going to Wyoming. I am taking Wyoming at, let's see here. I believe that is neg 1. I need to alter this banner before I put it up because I forgot to do that.
Ramble.
This is live. Tell Wyoming by 1. I had it as a pick 'em because that's what it was earlier today. Both the Wyoming Cowboys and San Diego State Aztecs are, what's your phrase? Oh, yes, they bad. But the worst unit on the field will be San Diego State's offense. That hurts to say. We love Sean Lewis. The flash offense is a joy. But freshman quarterback Daniel O'Neal has completed only 61.3% of his passes against FBS competition. He's averaging 7.2 yards per attempt. He has not shown any threatening efficiency. And that's why San Diego State's dropback success rate ranks number 116 in the country. I think San Diego State's going to run the ball, which they already do 6.6% more often than the average team would in a given game state. But run defense is Wyoming's closest thing to quality. I haven't reread the rules of college football today or this week or this year, but to my memory, you have to score to win the game. And I'm not sure San Diego State's going to score. So I'm going to take Wyoming in this by 1. Pick them if you can find it. The difference there is obviously nothing. I am taking Wyoming to win at home against an overmatched San Diego State offense.
Yeah, I don't hate that logic at all.
I disagree with our corporate account saying that is straight sicko mode. No, that's straight value.
But both things can be true there.
I think Bobby Newport understands my feelings and sees me as the person that I am. Saying final score 6-3 Wyoming. I disagree with Bobby Newport when he says this is the grossest game of the week. If I win a bet, it's not a gross game. If I win a bet, it's a bar tab. That's all I'm seeing.
It would be a bar tab, wouldn't it?
Now, I promised we'd go through comments. I'm going to start with one that just got clarified. John Butler wanted to pop a bottle of champagne about the Air Force Under. I was going to go look up the Air Force Under this week, and then I realized he's talking about the bet I gave him a week ago, and he's trying to do this in a fun way, an enjoyable way, and not give you too hard of a time. I do have, as my Friday column said, New Mexico by 6.5 against Air Force this week. I did not include that in the show. I can't use the same numbers all week long. But I do think Air Force is going to have another rough week. And I do want to go ahead and pat myself on the back here, Andrew. I know that's hard for me to do. I gave out 3 picks today, and commenters agreed and tailed me on 2 of them. So I appreciate y'all. You know, I don't drink coffee. This is actually just flat Diet Coke. That's what gets me energy.
Is that real?
Yeah.
That's so funny. You're like Rory from the Gilmore Girls. That's what she did, apparently. She hated coffee and drinking Coke out of her coffee cups. You're so funny.
Yes, this is obviously a reference that I understand. And
of
now
we should. Oh yeah, you're not married. You're not married. Yeah.
Wow. Hear that, folks? He said, yet. Let's get back to college football. Bobby Newport wants us to talk about Dilfer, and he's got a 4 touchdown spread at Army this weekend. You got any thoughts about UAB plus 27 at Army?
No. They have Zeno's a decent quarterback, I guess, but Army is just these triple option offenses when they're going well, are really hard to stop for bad football teams, and things can get sideways quick. I don't want to lay that number with Army, but I'm not going to be backing UAB in this spot either.
Bobby Newport saying he got that at 21. I got that at 23. That number has climbed.
That's crazy. That's a crazy move.
I can understand it, and that's why you do the work early in the week. You listen to College Football 134 on Tuesday, so you get that value. And there was one other game that I noticed. Do you have any thoughts? Carlos Bilbao asking us about Pitt. He's saying neg 3. My first thought there, Carlos, is where'd you get that? Because I'm seeing 3.5 against Cal. You could argue. I'll make a pretty strong argument. That's a letdown moment for Cal.
Yeah, that's all I'm thinking about this one. Holstein has been pretty solid this year. Despite Cal kind of like playing out of their shoes a little bit last week, all the emotion of that game and to then not win, this team still ranks 78th in defensive success rate. The offense isn't much better. Like, I don't know. Pitt has been the better team from top to bottom in this matchup, so I'd lean Pitt.
I lean Pitt. I don't hate the thought of the over, just in that Pitt puts up some points, lets up off the gas, can still cover that 3, but gives up a few late touchdowns to Jaden Ott. That kind of situation, I lean Pitt more than anything else there. Looking at our comments, I think we need to get to okay, John. Should we indulge John?
Yeah, it's $8 million.
All right, John Mettler is our resident NBA props fiend. And he's asking, how much does a good quarterback cost in NIL for college football? I saw the basketball recruit, who I haven't heard of. I have not followed college basketball recruiting because I'll stop talking.
It might be more. Cam Ward cost Miami $8 million.
I didn't know that was the Cam Ward number. In my experience, and Notre Dame is obviously my expertise, I covered that team for 7 seasons. Tyler's number here of Riley Leonard getting 7 figures, I believe that's accurate. I believe it's about $1.5 million total for Riley Leonard. Sam Hartman was north of $1 million. Now the question is, are they good? Yeah, Cam Ward's having a much better season than Riley Leonard. Riley Leonard was considered the best quarterback on the transfer market last season. There is that needs to just be
I would disagree. I would disagree and said it was Cam Ward all the way, but
nonetheless, if you're saying that Riley Leonard was number 2, like he was, the number is 7. The number is 7 digits. You are getting $1 million plus, and a big part of the conversation for a Riley Leonard and for a Cam Ward is, can you showcase for the NFL? You want to make your money for the season, but also improve your chances at something coming forward.
Yeah, one of those quarterbacks is doing that, and one is not. One of them looks like an NFL quarterback to me for sure.
Riley Leonard today, I have not looked at his props because I spent time on that game and focused on Stanford's offense. I took the Stanford team total over 10.5 at plus money. I suspect Riley Leonard will have at least 1 rushing touchdown today. If you want to go find that prop, folks, that is something I would consider. We have Bobby Newport asking us how we feel about the line movement on the Rutgers number. I also took Rutgers earlier in the week. I got that at 2.5 on the show on Tuesday. I took it at 2.5, and last I checked, that was down to 2. I suspect maybe while we've been live, it's down to 1.5, which does not thrill me inside. But does 2 really matter? That's how I slept last night. That's how I convinced myself.
I don't think it really matters. Something I might look at in that game. Here, I'm just going to bring it up real quick. Wisconsin's team total is 20.5.
Under.
I think that's an under.
Under.
I have no faith in that Wisconsin. Under 20.5. I'm seeing that Bet365 has it right now, 20.5 minus 110 to the under.
I have one word for you.
Go bet right now.
Under. And we have good friend Jared Hockman asking us why Minnesota.
Woke up. Look at that. Sorry. Jeez, comes in right at the end, eh?
Call him a good friend, Jared. And you got to do him like that. Why has this Minnesota UCLA spread kept moving toward the Bruins? I have only one theory. It would also line up with the Penn State USC number moving toward USC, and that is a talking point developed this week that Big Ten teams moving across 2 time zones are 1-8 outright this season in conference play, 2-10 overall. But you go and look at those 12 games, favorites are 10-2. Folks, we're overreacting to what is, frankly, a small sample size because we're 6 weeks into the season. But also, the favorites go 10-2. How shocked are – and the 2 losses by the favorites were both USC. Further doubting the Trojans, further doubting what Lincoln Riley is trying to build. Jared, that is my only hunch as to why that number has moved toward the Bruins. And frankly, I haven't bet it yet. I'm looking to see if it will fall even further. I believe that was approaching. Let me go live on air, check that number. Yes, it's down to Minnesota 4. I should probably just go grab that 4.
I'm not touching that game. I'm just not.
Some of us live dangerously. Some of us don't.
I have like 9 bets on the board, but
only 9. Only 9. Okay.
It might be more. I don't know. We'll
At
see.
that point, Andrew, we're coming up on an hour. Alex Simon is right. I need to pace myself this week after Thursday night's Minnesota Lynx comeback, one for the books that I even worked into a college football column. I need to get some work done today so I can enjoy winning game 2 tomorrow. That was the only thing that surprised me this week. The Lynx coming back from 15 down with 5 minutes to go. Should we recap our bets and get out of here and let everybody prepare for Saturday football?
I just have to comment on this Bobby Newport, but you're not going to do it. I love Jingle All the Way. Thank you very much, Bobby. I love Sinbad beating him out there. Great character by Sinbad. Yeah, he beats out Phil Harmon as the actual bad guy in that movie. But yeah, it's just a Christmas classic for me. Love it.
You know, you're just going to sit there and hype Minneapolis, and I'm going to let you. If I get to talk about the Lynx, you get to talk about Minneapolis's best-known film product. Let's rattle through our best bets. What does your week look like?
Okay, let's run them through them. From Tuesday, we got Clemson, minus 10.5 in the first half. Georgia Tech, minus 5.5 at North Carolina. And Iowa State, minus 2.5 at West Virginia. From today, let's see if I get this all right. Penn State quarterback Drew Auer going for over 206.5 passing yards. Texas, Oklahoma, first half under 25.5. Really think we get a kind of scripted out first half here from both teams. Then we're going to Ohio State running back Quinshon Judkins over 64.5 rushing yards. And Ohio State running back Travion Henderson over 58.5 rushing yards. We're going with Clemson QB Cade Klubnik over 2.5 passing touchdowns. That's at plus 110. Really like that. Vandy team total over 14.5. Think that's a bad number too. Like them to bounce back. And Texas running back Jaden Blue over 20.5 receiving yards. He's been an outlet valve for Ewers, and in his first game action in a month, I like him to go back to that.
That is a full day, I suppose. My best bets, and I want to put that back up and credit producer Jameson. Look at all of that on one graphic. Well done, producer Jameson. As a favor to you, I will not point out that the Florida-Tennessee line is coming down to a juiced 14, and there might be value in Tennessee at that number. I won't point that out. I will instead get to my best bets. From Tuesday, I had Ohio State, neg 3. Rutgers, 2.5, and Eastern Michigan on the money line. EMU all day, every day, plus 125 at home against Miami, Ohio. And from today, Penn State by 3.5 at USC. Wyoming by 1 against San Diego State, taking a home pick-em against an overmatched offense. And Syracuse neg 3 at NC State. I'm glad to take the week's developing value. I think that about does it for us, Andrew. Everybody enjoy an absolutely loaded Saturday afternoon. College Football 134 is in your podcast feeds and live every Saturday morning to preview that day's games and discuss all things college football. So like, subscribe, come on back for more. We will record again Tuesday because in my heart, I am grateful Cam Rising played one more time.